John Conyers' attorney announcing that the congressman will be the one to decide if he resigns or that, and making sure everyone knows he's not going to succumb to pressure from his congressional colleagues. This unfolding as news broke, Republican Congressman Blake Farenthold used $84,000 in taxpayer money to settle a sexual harassment claim brought by his former spokesperson. This is back in 2014. With me now to discuss State Congresswoman Christina Hagan of Ohio, who's also running for Congress, Emily Jashinsky, Washington Examiner commentary writer, not running for Congress yet, and Katrina Pierson is back with us as well. Emily, if you ever decide to run, make sure you contact Katrina, okay? Let me start with you, Christina, though. It's, we've seen this whole thing play out, particularly over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what's happened is we've seen a dividing line based on political parties and ideology. And I think the Democrats have now put themselves in a terrible position because they've circled the wagons against Al Franken, whose accusers are now at least a half a dozen. And they're more or less throwing John Conyers to the wolves, but he refuses to leave.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is, it's unbelievable, really, because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer both led the War on Women march against President Trump, and then they're being completely hypocritical with this stance. They've not really taken a firm stance on removing these sexual predators from office, and quite honestly, their stand is coming too late.
Yeah, and Emily, it's also, people want to know about this accountability act. How can they blow it up? How can we find out who's in there? How much has been paid out? Get some, we're getting dribs and drabs. Today, of course, the news of the 84,000, but the American public are really demanding a lot more than that.
He sort of paid a severance package, about $27,000 in a severance package. That is sneaky. There is not enough transparency. It has taken us years to understand exactly what happened now with Blake Farenthold, and to know that that was taxpayer money. So what's going to have to happen is someone is going to need to, and there's legislation that's being considered and introduced, something needs to happen so that we know exactly what is going on, and we're able to better understand what's happening in Congress, because this is absurd to learn how our taxpayer money has been used by these powerful men who have abused that power. And
of course, Katrina, the hypocrisy, I'm sure amongst the inner Trump circle, you just can't make this up. Almost everyone who took President Trump to task, who convicted him during the campaign, and even since then, a lot of them themselves have now found themselves having to bow out and make apologies.
That's why you shouldn't throw stones in glass houses. And this is absolutely, Emily's absolutely right. This is taxpayer money. We have a right to know where it's going. But I think the focus on today really is misplaced. We need to be focused on the Congressional Accountability Act in 1995. That was a permission slip relatively created for this conduct. And it's been, to this day, suppressed by other members of Congress, including the women. People like Senator Feinstein voted for this thing back then. What were they thinking? What are they thinking about it now? What are they going to do about it? We can't really do anything for the victims in the past. What we can do is to take actions today to make sure that this does not happen again and taxpayers' money aren't used to shut these people up.
Christina, on that note, I think this is a great time for young, fresh faces who want to go into D.C. and to really shake things up. To Katrina's point, you can say they're all sort of guilty to the point of building a moat around themselves. They never live by the rules, the taxes, or anything else that they foist upon the American public. You're running for Congress. Do you think that new faces, new people like you could really go down there and shake things up? Because it feels like there's always an ironclad, firm hand by management, like someone like a Nancy Pelosi, who should not be the leader of the Democratic Party right now.
Right, absolutely. Yes, we do need young faces, new, fresh perspectives. There is no question that the people that are in Washington now are the swamp that needs to be drained. These very people are treating women as if they're objects. They're completely disregarding that we are contributing factors of society. We're intelligent, we're breadwinners, we're running our families, our households, we're running businesses.
They give it lip service, but then they give themselves also protection so that they don't have to live by the same rules that everyone else does.
Absolutely. I mean, Nancy Pelosi was turning the cheek on sexual predators and using our taxpayer dollars to do it. I mean, somebody has to go to Washington, D.C. and tell them enough is enough.
Emily, I got to tell you, though, I'm not sure that there are going to be significant changes. I think there'll be some cosmetic changes, but I think like almost every major issue that comes up and you really think this is going to be a turning point, you look back a year later and say, golly, whatever happened?
Yeah, I think we'll see a turning point probably in corporate America and maybe some other industries. But whenever Congress is tasked with overseeing Congress, yeah, that's not always a great solution, right? I mean, there has to be a sustained, powerful demand from people across the country that this happens. We can't let it go, because trusting them to fix the solution, trusting them to oversee themselves and their own members. I mean, look at how hesitant people were to condemn Conyers. It took Nancy Pelosi a while to get to that point, and it took a lot of people a while to get to that point because he was called an icon.
Yeah,
so we can't let Congress be in charge of that. We have to demand that they take real actions here.
On that note, Katrina, President Trump is going to be down in Pensacola, Florida. The mainstream media is saying that's a de facto way of campaigning for Roy Moore without actually stepping into Alabama. What would you say to that?
I would say Florida is not Alabama. But, you know, I would also say that, of course, they're going to try and connect the campaign to Trump, because that's just what they want to do. That's what they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about taxes. They don't want to talk about markets. They don't want to talk about all of the great things that are happening in this country because of Donald Trump. Right. So, of course, they're going to draw those lines of distinction, which are really nothing at all.
Well, hopefully voters around the country will be the ultimate arbiters of this and remind Congress they work for us, particularly on issues like this, as sensitive as this. Ladies, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.